Hey everyone, before we go to this video, we are going to enter major spoiler territory because this is a list that contains a lot of spoilers for some of our Omnia to set as an example. So if you're sure to watch this video, go ahead. But if you're not sure to watch this video, I'm giving you a chance to exit this intro because we are headed to major spoiler territory. Okay? You sure? Alright then. Don't say I didn't warn you. So in Upper Omnia, there has been every battle that has been featured a final boss form. So we have seen the likes of Chaos Bahamut. We have seen the likes of the Emperor getting his Emperor from Hell form. We have also seen safer Sephiroth. And recently, the final Aeon Jecht has been featured in a boss battle. So this list is going to show you the top 8 final boss forms and even final boss or boss form in general that I want to see in the game of Opera Omnia. This could range to a new character, an existing character in our roster, and maybe, just maybe, a featured final boss who can't be a recruitable character but has a potential to be a boss fight, like a Shinryu boss fight. If you didn't know, Shinryu is the next difficulty level that was introduced in Japan along with the force weapons. So yeah. So if you are interested on my list, I want you to look at this top 8 Final Fantasy boss forms that I want to see and battle in Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. Number 8, Illdaris and his orbital. Well, let's generalize this. In that Chaos chapter, it was Illdaris who is trying to get the Dark Essence that reminded the villains and gave them their final form, or sort of. So it would be an obvious choice to have one of the progenitors of this final form rush be in this list, correct? So I'm telling you this. Illdaris and his orbitals. What are orbitals? Well, orbitals are like those tiny little planets as you see in the screen. So in Final Fantasy XI, you get to fight Illdaris in the so-called Celestial Nexus, which is also one of his weapons, I think. And Illdaris is floating on a pod. So we have not seen this Illdaris yet. Maybe because during his release, he was designed, the developers have no idea how to implement the pods and the orbitals into his kit. But when the time comes, now that we have the likes of Jecht and his pagodas being featured in Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, it would be sometime in the future, maybe, that we are going to see Illdaris fully realize the potential of his exoplates and deploy the orbitals in a future boss fight. And that's what I like to see in Opera Omnia. People who have not played FF11 can have a chance to experience the Celestial Nexus battle against Illdaris, which is one of the final boss of the game. I think it was in the expansion Rise of the Zillard. So, yeah. So now clearly you've seen Illdaris expanding the exoplates, is floating here in a suspicious space pod, and maybe they'll incorporate it in the future for Opera Omnia. So number 8, Illdaris and his orbital and his pod thing. Now, for number 7, there are a lot of forms for Seymour, but I kind of want to see Seymour Omnis, given that the team fight for Seymour is his battle team when you get to fight him. Yes, I know the final Aeon has been featured in a Shinryu boss fight, but how awesome it would be to have Seymour Omni's form, boss form, in this game, in the game Dissidia Final Fantasy Upper Omnia. It could be a puzzle form like the one in FF10 where elements are lined up on his discus. It could be a throwback to the old Lupenia difficulties where it's like a puzzle and you need to meet certain conditions to deal damage to him. Or maybe you'll just use selfie and just cheese the boss fight. Who knows? But Seymour Omnis, I think, definitely deserves an entry into the boss forms that we'd like to see in Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. We can also see a modified chain spell, like he casts multiple times to your party instead of one target. And that could be an awesome fight. That could be something I like to look forward to. Maybe this could be a 6-man battle. Like you swap out party mates, just like in FF10. So yeah, Seymour Omnis boss fight. Number 7 on the list. Number 6 on the list is Kefka. And no, we already have the Kefka boss fight, the Attack of the Clones thing, where Kefka has and his mannequins fight the party. But I think the devs jumped the ship here. I mean, jump to the shark. I don't know what the correct term is. But they could have done a more viable Kefka boss fight, and I like to prove it today. Final Fantasy VI Kefka final boss form. Now, I see this if this eventually happens, this final boss fight, if this Kefka boss fight is implemented, we can see wave after wave, like 3 waves maybe for each different Kefka floor, because Kefka is like a huge tower in this boss fight. Like if you defeat the base form, you go up a level, and then that's another wave. If you beat that other wave, you get to fight Kefka at the peak of the tower, I guess. But yeah, maybe in the future we'll see a Kefka boss fight similar to what is on FF6. I mean, the Attack of the Clones Kefka is good. It shows up different Kefka stuff, but I think it would be more serviceable if God Kefka, I think that's what I want to call it, shows up and just ruins everything, just like in FF6. Coming into number 5 on our list is Neo Xdet. So Xdet got his 3 form costume of some sort, but let's be honest, we want to see Xdet in his 3 form as a boss battle, right? So yeah, similar to Kefka, this could have 2 waves. The one is where Xdet's torso becomes this huge evil tree, and the second form could show off the one that looks like a dozen of corpse, where there are multiple targetable things, and like you can imagine it. This is a YouTube video. It will be pretty obvious if I skip it because the mouse will be seen. So Neo Xdet boss fight number 5. Coming in at number 4, Ultimisha Griever form, the part where she is junctioned to Griever, and another note is the time and space Ultimisha. So Ultimisha can be 2 waves, Griever form and her time and space form, and I think I like to see how her summon lock ability can play out in this game. Remember, In FF8, she has an ability that deletes your summon. So maybe if it's transition to Dissidia, Final Fantasy, or Omnia, she has an ability to silence your summon. Or if Time and Space Ultimisha is summoned on the field, you cannot use your summon. Now, if you're asking, what about Griever? Griever can be a separate boss fight, maybe Chaos, and then as the story progresses, yes, I want this to be a story thing. As the story progresses, Ultimisha will junction herself to Griever, and she will become Time and Space Ultimisha, the one who has an upside down body of Ultimisha, and then the upper part is the one with the big tits and a glowing hologram face and weird claws. I don't know how will this turn out as transition, but I gave an idea. The summon lock, time compression, 2 waves, Ultimisha, boss fight, done right in the DFFOO. Number 3 on our list is Transcuja. Now, I know Kuja is on the opposite side of the coin. He is currently sided with our heroes during the course of the story. But remember, so was Jecht, and he became the final Aeon. Maybe Kuja will turn heel during the story. He will become Transcuja, attacks the party, and then do the same thing. Summon the crystal world, destroy the crystal, and what do you know? Maybe it will happen. Kuja will do Ultima just like in his own boss fight in Final Fantasy IX, and then comes the other half entry of this list. Yes, I am talking about Necron. So I'm on the fence which to add on the list. Is it Transcuja or is it Necron? But I think the idea of having Necron just as a boss in DFFOO, it also makes sense. We can't have Necron as a character, but we can have him show up out of the blue, like in Final Fantasy IX, where he also showed out of the blue. And with the advancement of how huge bosses are, from Shinryu to Final Aeon Jecht, and then we got that Megazord and Necro summons, I think Necron is a safe bet and cannot be downscaled. I mean, look at him. I think he is also of the right size, and the devs can transition him now fairly better as because Final Aeon Jecht has been optimized in that battle. He has these pagodas, so Necron is just one sprite with huge wings. Maybe he can do the devs can do the same with Necron. So yeah, Necron is number 3 on my list. Number 2 is on our list is Bartondalus. Now, this is a new character. He hasn't been in Upper Omnia yet, but I think they can introduce him as a story character where his FR, LD, and burst weapon, yes, I consider him a burst candidate, will debut. They've done the same thing with Jagran. His Lufenia Plus is also his final boss form, I think, where he transforms into that he assimilates himself into that huge airship. And I think we can have Dicely as a character, and then we fight him. He transforms into Bartondalus. His burst phase ending finisher, have him transforming to Bartondalus. Either way, there's no excuse to say that Bartondalus is too big, because we have seen big bosses so far, and they could just zoom in on his face, to be honest. Yeah, like this in the video, we zoom in on his face. We can have Thanatosian Smile, Ultima. I forgot the other skills. Thanatosian Laughter, I think. Apostosis, I think. Yeah. So, really, his kit is already there. It just needs to be properly transitioned into Upper Omnia. And I think that's why I make him number 2. So, who would be number 1 though? Of course, number 1, you could have it in 3 ways. You can have it as Garland Chaos, or you can have Feral Chaos. Why I put this in number 1? Well, Dissidia goes back to its root, so to say. And I think it would be awesome if they somehow brought back either Chaos from Final Fantasy 1 or Feral Chaos from Dissidia, especially in Duodecim. It would go back into the old days of Dissidia fighting game. It's a nice callback. It all goes full circle. And yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. I think it's gonna be a good thing if we fight Feral Chaos or Chaos in a turn-based battle format with all the characters that we have. The thing is, final boss forms and boss forms are like a story thing so far, just like Jet Chaos Bahamut, Final Aeon Jecht, Emperor of Hell. So, in reality, maybe this is the final story for Act 3, where they will rescue Warrior of Light. When Warrior of Light is rescued, Garland will be rescued alongside them. Garland will turn into Chaos. Then Feral Chaos comes out. And so on and so forth. But, to me, this is just my booking. Feral Chaos, number 1 on my list. And that's our list. If you enjoy, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments which final boss form you want to see. Final boss form you want to see in the Dissidia Final Fantasy Upper Omnia. Obviously, I didn't include super bosses here like Ozma, Hades, Warmech. Maybe there will be a list for another day. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and good night. Bang bang.